With 4 different entrances and a 1-mile-long peninsula, you can find a skyline so good it makes most parks look tiny. If you zoom out, you'll find a park with 16 roller coasters. And so unique and so good, you'll find yourself questioning whether this is real life or Roller Coaster Tycoon. Cedar Point broke every record in the book, while making sure that their coasters were still incredible and historic. Nowadays, everybody's sad when they take out a new coaster, but soon something else will take its place, not only just as good, but probably better. So today, we're talking about everything that went into building the roller coaster capital of the world, better known as Cedar Point. Cedar Point opened up the Cedar Point Railroad and Skyride. They were beginning to grow, but one thing they were missing was a roller coaster. The Philadelphia Toboggan Company would come in and build Cedar Point a coaster. A quick look to the local high school for a name, and voila, Blue Streak was born. The park has had 3 hybrid coasters over the years, and this one was the first. Cedar Creek Mine Ride was an era mine train that little did they know would lead to a friendship between a park and a manufacturer that would shape the coaster industry into what it is today. Although it's not my favorite coaster at the park, it's an iconic and scenic coaster over the water that makes for one of the most picturesque coasters in the world. Cedar Point would have a big turning point in 1976 with Corkscrew. They had created their first coaster with inversions, as well as their first coaster to go upside down 3 times. Although it may hurt in some areas, its picturesque corkscrews and history makes it one of the most iconic rides in the park. Cedar Point had broken the inversion record with Corkscrew, but now they're going much bigger. Literally, standing 125 feet, Gemini became the world's tallest coaster. Not only that, but it was the steepest. And how does world's fastest sound? Oh, and they made it race. This coaster made the coaster industry realize something. Cedar Point isn't holding back. Less than a year later, they would call Intamin, a manufacturer who had not built a single coaster. They held the brakes just to build a coaster for the whole family to enjoy. With that, Junior Gemini, now known as Wilderness Run, entered the park. It had been 8 years since their last coaster, so Cedar Point knew that this needed to be a good one. They once again gave Ariel a call to make Iron Dragon a suspended coaster. Although it's not the largest coaster, it's a coaster nearly everyone that rode enjoyed. In 1989 was only a few years before Arrow went bankrupt, and it was the last time Cedar Point would work with them. Magnum XL200 would change the theme park forever, and it would be the world's first hypercoaster. Vortex at Kings Island was the tallest coaster ever, and it also had 6 inversions. Cedar Point decided to take out all the inversions and create long, drawn-out hills, creating some amazing airtime. Cedar Point had just started the Coaster Wars. It was 1994, and B&M was looking to make their mark. Cedar Point called for the tallest, fastest, and longest inverted coaster in the world. Raptor roared throughout the midway, making for a beautiful machine that matched Vortex's 6 inversions and became an icon at the park. Just 2 years later, Cedar Point did it again. They called B&M and created the tallest, longest, and fastest stand-up in the world. With the name Mantis, this coaster was another staple at the park. In 2015, Cedar Point called B&M to repaint Mantis and give it floorless trains. Mantis was now Rougarou. Cedar Point would call Vekoma and place their order for a small-scale family coaster in Camp Snoopy near Junior Gemini. Woodstock Express would be an addition to take our minds off of them pouring the footers for the single biggest addition in Cedar Point history thus far. It had only been 37 years since Cedar Point was desperate for attention, but now they are becoming one of, if not the greatest amusement park in the world. It had been 10 years since Magnum, and yet the world's first hypercoaster was still being called the best in the world. Cedar Point wanted to change this. They had one thought: if we can go 200 feet, why can't we go 300? Hitting 93 miles an hour would call for insane precision in the trap work like nothing we had seen before. I could talk all day about that first drop right next to the water, the elevator bank, and those tunnels, and everything else. But today, all I can say is you just gotta go ride Millennium Force. Cedar Point's plan was simple. They were the first to top 200 feet, the first to top 300 feet, so they had to be the first to top 400 feet. With all the new ways to propel trains to remarkable speed, Cedar Point thought, why don't we give them 420 feet and 10,000 horsepower? It doesn't matter what you've done in your life, sitting on that launch track for top thrill dragster is like nothing else. Knowing you're about to be launched over 400 feet in the air has to get your heart pumping. As soon as those hydraulics launch, you have nothing to do but holding for dear life. I can't wait to see where Cedar Point takes this coaster in the coming years. "105 feet tall, that's half the height of Magnum, 1/3 of the height of Millennium Force, and absolutely tiny compared to their last edition. But Maverick doesn't need the hype, you just gotta ride it and you'll see what I mean. With all the supports dropping low to the ground and all the quick transitions, this ride easily placed at the top of Cedar Point's collection." It had been almost 20 years since Cedar Point had worked with B&M, so they thought, why don't we add another one? But this time, let's ride on this side of the track. Oh, and let's have the world's tallest inversion. Gatekeeper is a ride like no other, and it's purely fun. Not only that, it was a high-capacity machine, and Cedar Point must have liked this. You see, B&M had a high-capacity blueprint that was ready to break some records. But before we go, let's just hang at the top for a little bit. I still remember my first time at this park like it was yesterday. We got 3 days at the park, spent some time at the beach, and made sure to stay at Hotel Breakers. To this day, the park is still my favorite place in the world, but as I was leaving, I thought about something. Would this park be my favorite if it wasn't for that one coaster that ties it all together? I still remember cresting the lift of Steel Vengeance for the first time, row 1, right seat. The rest of the ride with my friend beside me was incredible. Now I could say 1,000 words about this coaster, but instead I have to say thank you to my mom for taking me to this incredible place.